Hi again everyone, after a break we continue with Bar Conference and next speaker is Zoe Gudović. Zoe Gudović is a lesbian artist, feminist activist, cultural manager, producer and organizer. She comes from Belgrade, Yugoslavia, and from October 2021 she lives in Vienna. Since 1995 she has been involved in the work and research of informal and engaged theatre forms. In her practice, she combines art and activism in order to change the existing consciousness and social relations. Theater educator, performer, drag king, transformer, toilet artist, founded or was in the groups and collectives Women at Work, Act Women, Queer Belgrade, Charming Princess Band, Reconstruction Women's Fund, Ephemeral Confessions, lecturer at Women's Studies Faculty of Political Science in Belgrade, on the topic of feminist art in public space, organizer of street engagement performances against violence against women, organizer of numerous campaigns for the visibility of LGBT LGBTQ+, women's human rights and people from the margins. Since 2001, she has connected artists from all over the world with activists from Serbia under the name Women's Movement, Women's Theatre, Women's Body. Winner of the Jelena Šantić Award for a combination of art and activism. Winner of BFM's Feminist Achievement Award for promoting feminism outside the feminist movement. Zoe got scholarships, residencies handled with care selected by BEATE, between 2022 Goethe Institute Serbia, 2018, 2019, 2020 Art Residence Villa Valberta Munich in 2018 and 2019. She edits and hosts the radio show Zenergia. From June 2022 we can listen to her show once a week live on Orange 94. That's the radio you can listen here in Vienna and online.
Thanks. I say Milos and Justina, it will be very hard now to, after the lunch, to make you awake, but we are awake all the time, yeah? Especially queer people, we need to be awake because the reality, it's, for us, it's never bright or shine or super welcome, yeah? Justina, thanks for the invitation. And she risked when she called me, to be honest, because she said to me, send me a presentation. So I don't have a presentation. When I watched Raza and Sebastian, I was thinking, shit, I don't have like this kind of proper leader. Check, I will put the timing at least. So, to limit myself to not steal the time that we share today. So thanks a lot for the invitation of important dialogue in the context of geopolitical part that I also come from Balkan. Somehow thinking about the topic and my personal perspective and my personal experience, 25 years dealing in the context that it's really not so welcoming the queer people, and this is Serbia. I also born in Yugoslavia, but somehow through Yugoslavia, when it's started the war, I stopped and finishing Belgrade with Serbia. So this is perspective that I will a little bit scratch, like not so much like archiving or like you, Rasa, do some kind of like bring us to the historical period of Soviet and position of the LGBTQ people, but much more from my personal perspective. And 25 years like be in the context that it's very like patriarchal context, very homophobic and transphobic, of course, and living like this, 25 years like lesbian, out lesbian, it's not so easy. So my body and my like own human like taste this what we are talking today about, hate, not all the time blaming who we are, all the time, like thinking why these people exist, it's better to they die, to not, pollute the air of the heteronormative, traditional, super religious society. So coming to I have this historical, because when you, Rasa, talk about criminalization and also after decriminalization, just a little bit overview for Yugoslavia, it's actually also like similar situation. It's not so welcome to any of the circles, also progressive circles like feminist or communist or also like socialist movement, to be who you are, to be a LGBTQ person, yeah? So we have a situation that actually homosexuality, it's criminalized, and this is, I don't know the numbers in English also, you will recognize. So 1959, yeah? This is actually the criminalization of homosexuality. And, in that time, and also before, but in that time it's very interesting because you cannot be also part of the Communist Party in that time if you are LGBTQ person. And the situation is that and you think about the people in that time who want to also resist to oppression, and from the circle when they think that they can find, comrades, you are again oppressed, and it's not so easy because the people in that time, they bring them to the street, they put the stones on them. So actually the situation for all of this, maybe we a little bit somehow progress, but I don't see progress, to be honest. Personally, I don't see. I see some kind of, thoughts that we are liberate, but basically we are never liberate, because still in different kind of part of this globe are people who face that you put the stones on them, that you hang them only because they are LGBT. So perspective maybe in Europe it's that we are shiny happy, but in other parts of the world it's not so like this situation. But one of the things that it's actually happened from recognizing and accepting in the law LGBT people, it's first start, of course, in Slovenia. So 74 we got this law to protect and not decriminalize anymore LGBT people. And then in Croatia we have a 73, and in Serbia actually start the year, just after Soviet, because you say 93, in Serbia it's, we got this decriminalization law 94. So we are a little bit on the similar path, connecting these two areas that you in the BAL conference do, Baltic and Balkan. It's similar narrative because it's, of course, we belong to the area that it's so dominant church, and we have a lot influence from church that actually this is one part that say, be LGBT a person, it's really like something that it's divorced to be. So imagine that you grow what we grow probably, and with this idea coming in our body, that I all the time think I really know, how do I prove myself that I'm worth it? But messages all the time I go that it's really shitty that I exist. So just I would like to people who have this perspective when we talk about the issue of safeties, or open mind, how to be open-minded. They all the time tell me to, go in some four walls and probably it's be super that not exist anymore. So actually I put a little bit, because you ask this question about Yugoslavia, it's the similar situation till 60s. From 60s, start to change different kind of perspectives related to the laws and related to the people. But it's also connecting with something that Sebastian talked about, the movie and this kind of like situation of perception of the queer people, also in the time when we face punishments and everything, mostly gay people are punished because the men who are together, they are the most dangerous for this patriarchal society. Women also have a perception that they are something like also blood. I don't know how, but it's, Miloše, kako se kaže blood? Blood. Blud, znaš ono kad urediš nešto, bludne radnje. So it doesn't matter when...
Blasphemy.
Blasphemy. So women are blasphemy and men probably to punish, you know, like because this is something that it's not okay. But also like women and lesbian perception, it's always to fulfill the man fantasy, yeah? So to this what sexuality of the women, it's also, you know, please this feeding the man fantasies that, you know, like then cannot be so punished, yeah? But it will show that then in the reality they must be punished, you know, in the sense of our bodies. So this is something that I am not prepared in my presentation, but I catch this because you inspire me, both of you, and especially like also like queer people or LGBTQ connect with bourgeois, yeah, but with proletariat, they like that I belong. It's not so perception that proletarian people can do this kind of blasphemy, yeah, but it's always. So immediately you hear this also class stuff, you know, so much, you know, stuff connecting this, not only sexuality, but class, you know, perception, and also like culture, you know, connection. So I will now come into something that I prepare with pictures, and then like much more related to the culture stuff, because I really belong to the culture scene in Yugoslavia, but particularly I'm much more like focus of the praksa in Belgrade and Serbia, and I would like to a little bit, does it's okay of Yugoslavia? Now I put a little bit, Rasa, what do you think? Are you satisfied with this, huh?
Very much so.
I need to check my colleagues, you know, like, because you are important, but they are like, you know, like, I'm just
We're going to
joking.
make more comparisons later.
Yeah, I'm just joking. But it's, but in the sense of why I would like to start with my own involvement in the artistic approach. It's actually like something that I find when I start to be infected by feminism, I was figured out that it's actually like so lot of theory. You know, people just talk and read books and catalogs. I know, you know, and it's really beautiful that we change the language in academic context, but then practically I need praxa, I need this kind of stuff that, you know, like telling about the violence only theoretically, what it means practically, how we protect our body, how we build our body, how we train our body. And I find that the theater is the best tool to transform or connect or build the bridges between these two stuff, that you can actually through the theater praxa connect, you know, connection with the, what we say, spaces, with the body, with the voices, and how then we relate to the issue that it's, you know, really not belong to us, but belong to us, and we are this. So I would like to start with something that you will also meet tonight, ZZZ, my alter ego character, and I perform like drag king from 2003, so 20 years now, and I'm the first Balkan king. And it's in that moment when I show up, like playing like again, very political stuff, that it's not only, okay, I'm also not politically correct person, okay, and this is that, you risk. So, but I don't like just to, I open the mouth, you know, like what it's now queer culture, perception of entertainment. I much more like to think about position and go to the political issue, and you really like deconstruct something that it's, you know, bothering us. So like drag king, I figure out that it's super transformation for emancipation, especially for the women, because give us another perspective, you know, because we're rooted in traditional role of the women, you know, what I need to do, how I need to smile, how I need to sit, what I need to do, what and how and when I need to tell you something if you allow me to tell you something. And with the men, it's really super beautiful, it's super easy, you know, it's everything belongs to them, it's everything, you know, they're super, you know, like, you don't need to smile, you don't need to, you all the time in the public space, you can do this, you know, and there if you do this, you know, you are immediately something that it's something not good and something is wrong with you. So this kind of traditional aspect of how we put the roles, it's also the responsibility of us to deconstruct these roles. And through the drag king artistic tool, I start to not only perform but also give the workshops to the women and to the trans community to actually like see and deconstruct the patriarchate inside of us. So everything that I say now, it's also it's part how we see the patriarchate that we are sucked from the, you know, like context that we are living, because this is constant, this is constanta, yeah, this power stuff, and always bring us that we are need to prove more, that we are valueless, or something like this. So when I start to do this, of course, the most bad reaction I got from the white men's, how can I do this, yeah? How I, you know, put the fingers in something that it's a narrative that they live in the privilege. So I just put you this, and this is from the performance in Maribor, like 20 years ago when we play, and with Lori, Biljana Stanković-Lori, who in that moment also explores herself like drag queen, yeah, but very political. We play about this kind of consumerism and also this kind of, you know, stuff. And now I will try to see what I put you here. So this is beginning of the Z, and then I will stop now here to tell you, okay, tonight you will see the Z, okay, and then while I tell you about the queer, a little bit drag culture, because now it's big expansion of the drag culture. But again, if you watch a little bit, it's so less drag kings. So in the sense of, again, presentation of the women telling political stuff, not only be the figure of, you know, like sensationalization, good-looking women, or also, you know, like different problematic sexistic stuff that I saw in drag culture. You know, for me it's very interesting how you like exclude drag kings in the sense of political narrative, what we have to say, yeah? Not only every kings do this, but I tell from my perspective that it's the passion that I have. So different kind of like initiative, different kind of stuff happened in the time of diversity in Serbian, Yugoslavian queer scene, but mostly like it's happened that exclude again women, yeah? So for me, then I find that this is I'm really like somebody who 25 years, you know, like dealing with that people erase the work of the women, you know, constantly, you know, like we have such a culture that, you know, we will always invite gay artists and, you know, sign them, but women, when they do the stuff, you can not, you know, sign them, not put the work of them. And then recently, like when it's Corona, I'm so angry because I read so many PhDs about the Yugoslavian queer culture and narrative that is there, again going to the visibility of the gay scene, but calling queer scene. And I say, you know, like, this is really interesting queer patriarchat approach, you know. It's really narrative again that delete, you know, whole bunch of trans people, lesbian, you know, and it's a rich scene, you know. And then I decide to, actually, I really don't want to leave Belgrade and without any trace. So in Corona, I start to, I make the concept of my book that it's like my personal diary. And I like done interview with 10 amazing lesbian artists from all around Yugoslavia. So now this is in the process of design. So I try, and I think that we are here, and whoever from whichever perspective come, are responsible to keep the history, to write the history, to write something that it's actually need to leave the trace for the next generation. If we don't do this, nobody will do, because they will again, you know, from the canon, from the norma, will delete us, yeah? And it's history of art will only belong to the, again, men. So I started to do this kind of like collecting the artworks of the amazing artists that I grew up with them, you know, from Slovenia till in the time. I also call this like I covered the topic of 90s, yeah, and in time of the war. How we, like lesbian, survive the war. What you do in the war, yeah? When you have a war only know for the profit. War delete the people. We see now, we're facing, you know, ethnic cleaning, you know, we're facing the genocide, what is happening in Palestine, not, you know, now, all these years, all decades, yeah? And we have this, we come from this country also where we face this. We have a Srebrenica, you know, like in the time of the war, nobody asked you how you survive like lesbian, you know, and nobody asked you how you survive like woman. Nobody, because you are only trophy. But lesbian not exist because identity it's not exist, yeah? It's only power and militarization and really like dangerous fucked up, you know, like that it's also reflect all of us then work with all this war inside of us, yeah? So then I collect, you know, works of 10 lesbian artists. Some of them I would really like to, you remember them, because, or invite them next time, because they are amazing. I really like lesbians, and I really like lesbian artists because, seriously, because it's really like bring this kind of, you know, beauty and fight that you can really relate and really like identify, and this is my struggle, yeah? Doesn't matter, she lives in Slovenia, she lives in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but she talk my story, and I like this kind of stuff. And this is my favorite cartoon female artist, lesbian. Her name is Helena Janicic, and also to be sure, I make the interview with them, why I call diary or lexicon, because it posed this private and political question about how they survive and how they do art in the time of the war, or what is the narrative in the artistic work that they do related to the war. So, like, yeah. So this is Helena Janicic. She is strip, kako se kaže, cartoon, strip. Cartoon.
Comic.
Comic, bravo.
Or illustrated book.
Bravo, comic. Nice, this diagonala. Thanks a lot. So Helena Janicic, like, it's one of the rare lesbian, šta si mi rekao? Comic. And she's like, in the time of amazing work she do with Ana Opelić. They come from both from Croatia, and in the time of the really like when Dubrovnik was attacked and bombing, they were thinking what to do, yeah. But then they start to think what we are like queer people do, and then they start to develop this project that in the cities, different cities, they show they show in the billboards like fashion. Yeah, the two of them put their models, but actually it's the slogan coming out. So how you do diversity in the very mainstream public space, use the media like billboard, but bring queer discourse, queer art in this. So Helena is one of these very historically, for me personally, important person. So also I do interview with Suzana Tratnik, who are the amazing lesbian author from Slovenia, and I really respect her beginnings, because this is for me literature that I grew up with her, and I grew up with her also, you know. Then I put in this book, I also show the work of Dana Budisavljević, and Dana is Croatia movie director, very famous now, and this movie, it's Nije ti život pjesma Havaja. It's one of the rare playing movie, but with documentary story, because she talked about her lesbian experience dealing and developing dialogue with her parents on the movie. So she recorded the movie about this. So I just a little bit put to these brave lesbian artists who I really admire in the sense what they move, how they move the context where they live in that particular moment. So this is Nina Simic. She is the amazing also author, and she organized Festival of Noir movie in Croatia, in Zagreb. But she's also one of the first lesbian who go out in this, how you say this show when you have a quiz, huh? And then when they ask her about life, she say, I would like to say hello to my partner, female partnerka, and she said she's in lesbian in Milionaš, that everybody watch this quiz. So first time we have a lesbian who are also artist and also academic, who so used media, public, mainstream space to promote the lesbian existing, yeah? Because nobody allowed us to promote our life, but at least we exist, yeah? So one of my favorite novel writers, it's Leila Kalamujic. I really recommend it to you. She also translates the books in German language. Please find her. She's amazing. Talk about the stories from Sarajevo, from the perspective of mental health, but also from the perspective of, you know, lesbian who spent 3 years in Sarajevo basement and without any kind of, you know, supplies that we watch now when we have a situation when people don't have a water, electricity, not, you know, this is 30 years ago. So we live constantly this war, constantly the war. And one of the very important initiative is Bura band and Bura football team. This is the only lesbian involved in this. This is also part of Croatia lesbian scene. This is Ana Opelić in Dubrovnik, and she's photographer and also initiator of different music bands. And one of these that I really recommend that you listen, it's Upogoret kod Sabe. And they have really become mainstream, but I think it's an amazing effort of the lesbians. And Natasha Velikova is one of the first, lesbian author in Slovenia that I really think it's moving in that time Yugoslavia regime, and during the war, they construct the role and put publicly and visibly in the literature that also belonged to the men. Oh, I ran with the time. Okay, 2 minutes more. And then, Alba Selimović, from Bosnia and Herzegovina, she made the sculpture, and I really think you need, somehow I really think that you need to know all of these persons, all of this. And this is Olga Dimitrijević and Maja Pelević, and Olga Dimitrijević and Maja Pelević work on this performance, particularly called Sloboda je najskuplja kapitalistička reč. Freedom is the most expensive capitalistic word, but it's true. We all talk about the freedom, nobody has a freedom. So this is something that I would like to stop, because I really don't want to, it's so many stuff that I prepare, and obviously I need to prepare presentation to do and then I will limitate myself more. But it's now I will stop. It's million of the stuff that I'm involved and I will like to share, but sometimes when we have a whole day only for me. Okay, I'm not joking. So yeah, I think it's fair to stop and to you have time for your presentation. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you. I will prepare the presentation.
You this, huh?
You can, yes. Carefully with the microphone.
The floor is yours.
Just 1 second. So, here you can control it. You have the microphone. I will read about you also before you start talking. So I can use our publication for reading about people. It's nice. So our next speaker is Piret Karro. Piret Karro is a researcher, curator, journalist, and poet. She studied semiotics at the University of Tartu and graduated from the Critical Gender Studies and MA program at the Central European University in 2020. Her MA thesis, You Are Being Hysterical, and this is the witch hunt, Discourses, discrediting gender in Estonian media, was awarded an honorary mention by the Estonian Science Council. Karro is also active as a freelance writer and poet. She has published critical essays and articles since 2011 in Estonian literary journals, magazines, and daily press, and worked as the cultural editor at the biggest Estonian subcultures magazine, Murilet, in 2015 and between 2015 and 2018. Her monthly column Power and Gender was published in the Cultural Weekly Sirp in 2020 and 2021. Her poetry and other texts have been translated into Hungarian, Russian, Lithuanian, and English. Karro is currently working as an advisor at the Equality Policy Department at the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Communications of Estonia.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I nursing a small headache, so really I'm sorry if I freeze at some point. I hope you don't mind. It's really interesting to follow Zoe because I feel like what I'm about to talk about has been an effort to write ourselves into history as women. And you were talking about the way we need to keep our own archives so that the men wouldn't erase us. So what I'm going to talk to you about is my research project and a curator project about the history of Estonian feminism. And this is something that has that kind of grew out from this necessity, because we realized that we don't really have up until this point this continuous narrative of what are the roots of our feminism. And as a lot of you probably know, the periphery of Europe oftentimes still kind of exists in the Western, like our headspaces in Western Europe. We think about ourselves through the Western concepts, which might also include the construction of the three-wave feminist history. But as it turned out, we in Estonia, and also probably in the rest of Eastern Europe, have our own different kind of archives and different kind of stories. And also, so what I kind of found out was that telling this story is also necessary to see what is the original trajectory of the development of contemporary feminism in our context. So the exhibition is titled Escape the Kitchen, 150 Years of Estonian Feminism. It's opened in Museum Vabamu in Tallinn until March, so you still have a chance to see it. And I really recommend to come, because also another thing that is open at Vabamu now is the history of Estonian LGBT movements. That is like an extra layer to the permanent exhibition there. And when you visit it, you will see that a lot of the things that Rasa was talking about regarding the Lithuanian history, it really mirrors into Estonian history as well. So please come. Since I don't have 3 days to talk to, I only have 20 minutes, then I am trying to kind of boil it into particular learning moments that I had when I was doing my research. So what I tried to do was firstly kind of dig out the materials that are as old as I can get, or go back in time as far as I can go, and see that where do I come from as an Estonian feminist. And also, when I was going into it, I wanted to write it in a way, so the first part of the project was writing a very long article, and then the second part was doing the exhibition. I wanted to write it in a way to kind of, like the first thing I had to think about was, do I structure the history in the same way that it is usually structured, telling Estonian history? So there's like Tsarist time, there's like the late 19th century, then there's the revolutions, the like imperial revolutions, then there's First World War, then there's, you know the way it goes. And does this structure make sense in the history of feminism as well? I found out that it kind of does. You can actually tell the history in those same types of like moments, but a lot of the knowledge that I dug out really contradicted the things that we know about our history. So currently, like in the Estonian feminist writing, in Estonian history writing, one of the main moments was 91, when the Soviet Union collapsed, and Estonian historians started to write new textbooks about Estonian history, so they kind of really rewrote the history from this independent country perspective. But they were men, and they wrote a very men-centered history. I think it's only 1 or 2 women whose names made it into the history books. So this was the first challenge for me to tackle, to dig out the women from the archives. And the person you're looking at right now is Lilli Suburg. She was active in the second part of the 19th century, and she is really our own Mary Wollstonecraft, because she was the first one to really think about women's position in a philosophical sense. And what I do, oh no, okay, you see the hard lines of the photos. Kind of her heritage to us was that she published the first feminist manifesto in 1887, I think, telling Estonian women to consider themselves as smart and intellectual and hardworking as Estonian men. And this was the time when the national awakening movement was going on. So Estonia was part of the Russian Empire. The official language was German, actually, and the language of education as well, because there was this ruling Baltic German class. But then there was, in the 1870s and 1880s, there was this movement of Estonian intellectuals starting to talk about this one national group of Estonians, and this was something that was going on in the rest of Europe as well. But Lilli Suburg, as you kind of see on the little heads there, she was entangled in the network of those national awakening people, but she was addressing women, and that is maybe the reason why she is left out of history books, even though she was very much involved in the works of all of these men who made it into the money we had and into the, you know, the very household names. So 150 years, which is the second part of the title, dates back even earlier than Lili Suburg. Lili Suburg is someone that we know, that we can refer back to as our grandmother, or our feminist grandmother. But first, like, finding out about her was the first thing that kind of gives us this feeling that we have a long history behind us. I'm just going to show you the photos from this exhibition, so you can kind of have a clue, and I'll talk about the horses as well. But 150 years actually dates back into 1872, when there was a massive strike going on in one of the textile manufacturers in Estonia. And late 19th century was the time of this industrial revolution, where there were these factories in Tallinn as well, in Narva. This one was in Narva, that were kind of the most developed machinery they had, developed in the 19th century sense. But at the same time, the working conditions of the actual workers who were working there were horrible. And something that I found out during my studies at CEU was that in this factory in Narva, Aleksandra Kollontai, if you know who she is, probably you do, she's like the diplomat of the Soviet Union. She's considered like a Bolshevik women's movements activist. She got her Marxist awakening there, which is very interesting. Of course, when I tell this to Estonian audience, then they're like, regardless, like whatever you think about her, she was a very important figure at the time, and just knowing that she went to Narva and had this experience that kind of made her devote her life to the working class really shows us that we are also part of this global history of like working class movements, women's movements. And also I wanted to show the intersections of women's movements and working class movements with this chapter. Of course, in this book that you see here, it's published in 1972, so it's published 100 years after the strike, and it retells the history of the strike with like detailed, like you can see what time something happened, what was the name of the people who participated, and the only sentence that it has about women in it is that the men were also protecting the women and children, striking men. But then you think about, okay, but there were like 25% of the working body were women and children. So they were also probably involved in the strike. And this is something that is not written into this history book, but this is something that we kind of have to assume based on these scrambles of evidence that we have. The horses are monuments for women. This is an original sculpture series by Flo Kasaru, who is an Estonian artist, who made this for this particular exhibition. And we were just talking that there's not many monuments for Estonian women in the streets and cities in Estonia. Perhaps maybe like 5% of all of the monuments that we have are for women who have actual names or like historical figures, not just like weeping mothers or something. So we decided to erect our own monuments, and what would be like the best genre of monuments? Of course, the equestrian statue. So we chose some women to do the monuments for. This is Lidia Koidula. She's the only woman in Estonian history because she wrote patriotic poems. But moving forward to the interwar period, so Estonia declared independence from the Russian Empire in 1918. In that moment, Estonian women already had the right to vote, because in the 1917, in the revolutions, in the Russian revolutions, women were granted the right to vote. And this was, like if you read the suffragette history, then the suffragette movements were successful almost at the same time in Western Europe, except from the UK, which was like 1928 or something, women were granted the right to vote. And something that I found out about that era was that these magazines that you see in this photo are published from 1911 to 1932, and they're full of political articles. So they give, they're published regularly by the Estonian Women's Association. So in the first interwar era of the Republic, women were super politically active, and something that they needed to ask for, because they had the right to vote, but at the same time they didn't have the right to actually own property or have their income on their own name. Basically their husbands owned them in that sense. And this was something that was a relic from the Tsarist era family law, and this was one of the main kind of struggles that the women of that time had. They tried to rewrite the family law. But when you look at these magazines, you really see that in the 1920s, they published what is the political situation of women in Estonia right now. There were these greetings and letters from women's associations from other countries in Europe. And they also had like the latest fashion and the latest trends in like mitten patterns or dress cuts. So being a fashionable woman was not like entirely went hand in hand with being a political woman. But this was something that for me was like such a great find, because nowadays or like since the 90s there is this construction of the traditional woman, or traditional like patriotic woman or national body woman, that really tries to show that the woman is always a housewife, she is never in the public sphere, she is always only concerned with family and children. And nowadays the interwar period, or the first independent era of Estonian state, is romanticized and really tried to show as that was the golden era of women were housewives, and you should go back to that. But if you really actually dig into the archives, you see that traditional Estonian woman is a political woman. So this is something that you can fuck with if you're really talking to the conservative men, and they're like, you should be a traditional woman. I'm like, yes, I should. Yeah. This I really enjoyed. Of course, and then in the following decade, in the 30s, there is this silent era, and I think it was also happened in Latvia, Lithuania as well. This like authoritarian regime start to kind of develop right before the Soviet military rising in 1940. And this luxury ended with actually the Soviet occupation, which disbanded the Women's Association because they probably saw it as a danger to them. They kind of see that, okay, we need to disband this political organization because otherwise, so that's kind of my interpretation. Probably they saw it as a political threat to them. One little side note about this stuff that you see here, the letter, for example. It was that when I started my research then a couple of years ago, then in 1936, I think, there is this book published, this one actually here, called Women and Women's Movements, that tries to tell the history since the beginning of times of the women's movements history in Estonia, and this is published in 1936. So it covers the really activization in the 20s. Then the next book is published 1957, I think, in Sweden, by this author who fled Estonia in the Second World War and published it in exile. That is also about the history of women's movements, but it kind of ends up with also the 20s. So what I was kind of the task that I had been given in 2021 was to write the rest of the 70 years and really see that what happened in afterwards, but also to dig out the proof and the evidence that really shows us that this history actually happened. And this letter is one of the evidence that I found that this actually happened. Because it's not part of, you cannot go into like any database of any museum and look up women's history movement or like women's movements history, because it doesn't exist as a concept or like as a construction. You have to know the hints. You have to know which names to Google and which names to look up from the old magazines, and then you have to kind of like connect your own dots. So this letter is from 1922. It's between 3 women. It says, "Dear Miss Jurman, the women's organization or the board of the women's organization's meeting is on 23rd of August at 11 in the morning in Mrs. Reisik's apartment. We strongly ask you to be present." Greetings, Almostra. And all of these 3 women in there are like, you kind of dig them up when you dig this history, that they were the founders of these women's societies and women's unions. So I was very happy to find like some of these, some of this proof. And then like the next 20 minutes is like time vortex. It's like I just looked at what I watched this for. And I think that, so today we already have talked a little about the Soviet era, right? And someone also asked you about this, the UN. Yeah, exactly. So in the Soviet era, the contradiction that I found was that on the one hand, yes, ideologically, women and men were equal. This was the reason why the Women's Association was disbanded in 1940. On the other hand, there was this double shift, so that these gendered expectations of women to take care of the family still didn't go anywhere. So women had to do their 8-hour shift at work. Then they had to come home and do the second shift of being caretaker. And then sometimes they had to do the third shift of attending to political meetings. I had a point about this as well. So this was like one of the contradictions that actually differs between, if you compare the second wave feminist claims in Western Europe, because women in Western Europe were housewives in the 60s, but in the Soviet Union they were tractor drivers or worked at the polymer factory or whatever, they were employed, and so that's why they had entirely different experience of this practiced equality. So this is one of the reasons why this 3-wave construct doesn't really apply to Eastern Europe, because the lived experience is very different. Also, the statement "personal is political," which we in the Western context see as one of the main, like, most known core feminist statements. But for women who had experienced Soviet life, for them it seemed like an harassment that their personal sphere was already politicized, and being alone in your kitchen with your curtains turned in was like something that you were wishing to do, to not like kind of have this have some kind of a border between your life and the political, because it was almost it was an obligation to politicize your life. So these contradictions yeah, I think they're important in thinking about our own very original history of feminism and where do we come from, what is the experience of our mothers and grandmothers, and can we really talk in the same terminology with Western European feminists, and also just to dig up the archives and what were the lived experiences of women, because otherwise they just get silenced and erased and forgotten. This is my grandmother's dress. She gave it to me as part of her help package during the COVID era. She sent me a package with some jam, jars of jam and this dress. And this is something very known for Eastern European women because it's your working dress, because it's practical, it has these big pockets, but at the same time it's from the 60s and it has this beautiful pattern and actual beautiful cut. So I really liked how this kind of brought in the vibe of the 60s. And the exhibition itself actually continues to nowadays with some next problematics. But I will conclude here for now, and hope to see you in Vabamo, and we can discuss a little now.
So I will invite Zoe to come back, and then we have some short questions and discussions. Would you like to start? Sure, and you're all very much invited to ask questions. If you have them, please speak up. But actually, Piret, I wanted to maybe ask you first to kind of connect with Zoe's topic also, because you speak a lot about this narrative of women and how they were historicized, and I'm curious to know if there was this community of lesbian women that you also kind of found during your research.
As Raza was talking, lesbian women in the Soviet times are super hard to dig out now.
Mm-hmm.
However, the 90s chapter of this exhibition talks about lesbian movement, because it turned out that when Estonia declared independence in 1991, then actually Lesbian Association was established in 1990. So they were already active as a movement before the independence was declared, and they were active all throughout the 90s. They were publishing their own these signs. They had their helpline opened. There was also a gay association, and a trans union followed as well. So one thing that we found out from the 90s, when 90s itself is also written right now as a very super male-centered thing, but also super focused on this national independence. But what was happening was that in that era, in that society, gay and lesbian and trans movements were very active.
Mm-hmm.
And this was something also that in the exhibition, as I mentioned with Grenholm, with the working class movement, I tried to kind of bring in these intersections with different other movements, but not only women's movements, but also lesbian movement or also working class movement. So this was something that I could talk about in the 90s context.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And maybe a question for you, Zoe. You only briefly mentioned, but written also in your CV, that you identify also as a toilet artist. And I'm very curious to know what your opinion is about public space and how important it is for public discussion, and whether toilets also fit into this idea of public space as a place where you can speak freely, maybe.
I am toilet artist. Yeah, this is my first what I say to the people. It's I'm so passionate about the toilets because really coming from the huge family, it's six of us live in 36 square meters. So I finished university in toilet, yeah, and masturbate and touch myself and love myself. Everything comes from the toilet. So in the moment when I was invited to do installation in Munich, I was thinking about the space, and Helen Barley Jamieson good friend and also amazing cyber artist, she said you need to perform in toilet. So I really use opportunity to jump in something that it's public space and familiar with everybody of us. Everybody wants to use toilet, yeah? And this is political space also, but not have a perception of art space. And related to the question of the working class people, like for example, for me it's somehow now start to be very, very obvious, like that the workers are not think about art space, the space that belong to them, yeah? But for example, the first guest when I open my installation, it's the people who clean the toilet. And the reaction when I hear it's that they first time meet with the artist. So this is also who have a right for the art, yeah? This is also for me class issue. And it's the sense how I grow in the thinking about what mainstream institution offer you. It's not to belong to everybody, yeah? But when you open something like toilet or open something, hey, come to my living space, my kitchen, you know, this is start to be political, artistic, or gathering space that you think that it's not like this. So I like to open this question about belonging, who have a right in which kind. I long time work in Serbia with the Roma community, and for example, working in the theater space, I always try to Roma girls work in the theater space, and when we have a premiere, sometimes it's happened that the family think that they cannot come, because they think that, you know, the theater not belong to them. So from them, what is public, yeah? What belong, you know, maybe this spaces, museum, it's maybe public, but for whom? Yeah, for people who have money, who have some kind of art, experience, education, and how you open for the people who don't have this? And what is the approach to you change something that it's narrative of art? Yeah, because I believe that this is something that it's really, if you ask me, in the darkest time, something that mostly help us to transform the trauma or something in some kind of good moments. So this is in the moment when workers come to the toilet, it's happened this kind of transformation that I always like. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I answered, but this is
Anyone would like to ask a question to any of the speakers? Otherwise, I have another question, maybe, because you both talk about work and essentially how in the Balkans and in the Baltics, this idea of women working was understood differently, and especially in your essay, also in the publication, you speak about this relationship of women to work, even historically, that was so different from what was understood in the West. And you, Zoe, are also part of this Women at Work collective, which deals a lot with this idea. So I'm curious if you can just sort of very briefly comment on that relationship and how it's different from the West, or if you feel like it is.
So the percentage of women who work in Austria is 56 point something, and the percentage of women who work in Estonia is 72. Mm. So in the demography, the women are employed, a lot more women are employed in Estonia than they are. I mean, I don't know about the entire West, I just looked up Austria because we're here right now. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, this is something that I'm just dealing with in my work as a state official, is that work is super segregated in Estonia. So there are some fields where it's almost only men, and there are some fields which are almost only women. And the places where women work are so less paid. So it's care work, education, healthcare, than where mostly men work, which is like STEM and IT. So this is something that we're dealing with right now. So in the Soviet chapter, I was talking about how women, even though they were employed, they still had to feel their gender expectations of still taking care of the family, which has somehow followed us to this day that women are still in the fields where they're taking care of other people. We still have a massive pay gap, which is partly related to the fact that women do a lot more unpaid labor than men. And there's like a term for it, that when you come back to work after having a baby, then the women who have become mothers, their salary is lower than their age and their level of women who don't have babies even 7 years after having a child. So it's very long dynamic. So I would say that, like, if I would have to think about work and gender in current contemporary context, then that's sort of the places I would think about.
Thank
you. It's similar. Like I will not repeat because we have a discrediting structure and percent and everything. I will have this, but it's much more going in the. I'm tired of this role, to be honest. It's really exhausting anymore to talk in 2023. Something changed, but. Nothing changed. And then I would like to, you mentioned women at work, like, for me it's very interesting this, when you mentioned this traditional role of the women and to back in the track and the roots of, like doing this. What is also traditional men or women work, yeah? In women at work that I was part, we do a lot of the construction of the male worker position, yeah, and we organize different kind of like strategy how women can earn money like equal like a man, knowing the man job, yeah. So we organize different kind of stuff relating to the house fixing, like electricity, water, cars, and everything like this. So I always try to some kind of work in the collective who have some kind of progressive agenda toward also traditional roles. I hate the roles that we got, and sometimes it's happened that women who pass this kind of education earn much more money than working in academia or somewhere else where it's the salary is this. So I think that we also need to a little bit go out of, I don't know, maybe I will sound now like crazy. I think that we also accept this victim role, and I think that we need to deconstruct this and to jump in something that it's also like talk about the women, and I talk about feminism also. I'm sick also of different these kind of feminisms. I don't like liberal feminism. This is not my cup of tea. And I think if we jump in something that think that it's not belong to us, we can maybe change something. Like this, we all the time we go in the line what society expects of us. And I think that we, especially like us lesbian, are really tired of expectation, what we need to say, what we need to do, what we need to please somebody. Because I think that we also have a right to break this kind of like traditional role of care or do all this kind of unpaid job. I just think that we need to be more anger and more rebel and more out of the box that also jobs give us. And I agree with you. So we live in capitalism that you try to find like human your role, not only like validate that you have to survive money, but also how to keep dignity in the jobs that you do. But I don't know. I'm just craving for this, that we be more unpredictable, more something that people not expect from us. Yeah. I don't know.
One more chance if anyone wants to ask some questions.
Yeah, because when I say
1 second. I need to get you. So people online can hear also.
Thank you. So what I see as a thing that connects the both of you is that you basically had to really scrap together the pieces of names and historical and contemporary personalities who really haven't made it into mainstream history. I want to ask, what does this experience do to your work? And you also, Piret, asked if it's possible to talk the same terminology as Western feminists. Is there still anything from Western feminist theory or that you deem relevant to your discourses at all?
You start.
Definitely, and I mean, Western discourses about anything are the hegemony, they're the dominant language, so it's very hard it's almost impossible to step out of them anyway. And I don't want to oppose entirely, be like, nothing makes sense in the Eastern European context, but, and so I think that in principle, we speak the same language in terms of women are human too. Women should have citizenship rights, right? It's just that the timeline is not the same. And in the 90s, when this region was lifted from being behind the Iron Curtain, then a lot of Western feminists did travel to Eastern Europe to kind of teach their sisters, which was interpreted or experienced as a patronizing act. So this is something that I know that the feminists of my mother's generation, because I was born in 91, experienced. But I would say that we do exist in the same context, right, in Europe. It's just that we need to not kind of apply blindly what we hear from the UK or from any Anglophone world and kind of apply it blindly to us, but we need to look at our own material history to know what were the differences. Yeah.
I totally agree with you.
Thank you.
Especially this part of patronizing.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with you, this that I moved from Belgrade to here, it's helped me much more to see this picture of the power, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Especially from the, coming from the Balkans and with so amazing people, amazing intellectuals also, artists also, activists, I can describe the critical thoughts that these women bring in the table. And then coming here, I somehow also agree with you, coming from the comfort and coming from the position of, reading, writing and everything, it's totally different than coming in the context when you also live such a hard life, all of these women who I know. So for me, this was first time I was thinking, okay, we have this situation before somebody come from the Europe, and the amount of the money that this person asks from from us, from the locals, are so high that we think, oh, here people ask, I don't know, 500 euros, and in my country we got 50 euros, yeah? Okay, this is the also problem with the economy, with everything. But how we really validate our work less, and here exactly we have a price. Yeah, I still have a problem with this, I don't know my price. But it's in the sense how we economy of language, economy of everything, this is something that I think it's responsibility of us feminists to fight and deconstruct the economy of also knowledge. Because everybody took, and think that, just use and then monetize here, So a lot of people come to Balkan region, write PhD, have a money from this, and people from my country, they really do this because they believe in this, So this is also difference between, I don't know if I answered the question, but this is something that I would much more like to be open, discussion about economy of the knowledge and the money, and also privileges. Because really, we talk about the privileges all the time and not tell them so, because they tell me here to not so criticize. It's okay to, I just do this. And I learned this. But it's really very dangerous if you lost the critic and constructive critique to nobody feel, but to grow. I think I'm stop.
Okay. I think we wrapping it up, right?
Miloš
has a question.
Can I add something? It's fine. Just to maybe add a few things. For me personally, this year we worked with Women's Center first time in Užice. We had amazing experience, very frightening and scary stories about what is happening around the area, especially Serbia nowadays, and also it triggered me to think about what change is needed of this complicating situation. It's how to overcome everything, the struggle, especially of women, queer people. Sebastian talked about, I listened a bit, the notion of other, the intruders of our lives, and etc. And now you both also other perspectives. I have a question for both of you, maybe the hardest question for me. When I see the protest, I only think about the revolution that needs to come. And in terms of Serbia nowadays, the revolution that really burns down the government buildings. So what is needed for revolution to come, for rights of people, queer, feminist, what the revolution, where is this highway that we need to stop? Or what is this government building that we need to burn down?
It's hard for me to answer because I work in a government building.
I believe that small scale, yes, but it takes a long time.
Yeah, of
and
course.
people cannot wait.
Yeah. I mean, I learned in Estonian context we are in a contradiction, because on the one hand there is this slow development. I, for example, work in a department called Equality Politics, and in there we look at all of the policies that the government makes and look at them through the lens of gender equality and also equal opportunities, so that no one will be mistreated. Of course, it's always super small steps, and if you do things in a very government bureaucratic way, then each step takes years. It's such a slow process, and through that slow process, the teeth get filed down, so it becomes much more conformist than the revolutionaries in the initially imagined. So on the one hand, there are systems within the system that try to make things better. On the other hand, the contradiction that we lie in is that the Baltics and Estonia are the economic inequality is massive. There is a massive gap between the wealthiest and the poorest. And this is something that you can't openly criticize, because using the language of Marxism, or just saying solidarity, or just saying working class, or just saying economic, you're immediately deemed as the evil communist. So it's very difficult, and this has put this like neoliberal reformist party in power for the last 30 years. So they usually they are always in the what's the word, coalition, yeah. So it's hard to talk about the main problems that we have. Poverty is one of the main problems in Estonia. It's really hard because the language is so politicized and the language is like silenced that, so that's why I don't know. Did you?
I like this, that somebody will put the finger who you are. I come from partisan communist family, so I am like communist. So in this sense, I'm like see revolution that are like going not anymore in our hands. The biggest revolution I see in education, but because we live in very instant period of time, I'm afraid that education, the real education that we got from the countries that we are learn and study are not exist anymore, because it is something that, again, it's not in the line with this neoliberal, that divide everything. So I see a big revolution in education, but this Miluša, you mentioned like the women from Užice and what it's the how we now to solve. I sometimes I really, this is me, I believe in movement, yeah. The group in Užice, when they start, and now they exist, for example, 25 years, they start from nothing, yeah, and now they build something. This is why I believe in all of this, yeah, how something like, this is why I hate this individual approach, this like coach shitty neoliberal stuff, because it's putting us, on individuals, we forget what it's collective stuff and who we are, like a collective body, and how our body, like Marta Popivota, made this beautiful movie, how Yugoslavia moved by collective. But I recommend that you watch this movie. But it's actually like I believe in this, and this is the slow process. But slow process also mean maybe some kind of decades will pass that we feel the core of our fight. But it's actually, for me, this is the base of all of this knowledge, it's education, because we also in feminist movement, we educate, we go to the workshop, we go to the kitchen, we go to the protest, we go everywhere. It's not by, just I wake up and I know a lot of women before educate me, I educate somebody else. And this is how we transfer the knowledge, and we cannot forget this. And this revolution, I believe, how you transfer the knowledge and then see the changes, because this is, in this particular moment, I see like only option. Because the class issue will always exist, yeah? And it's always divide us. But how we need to back socialism to education need to belong to everybody. And then from this, we start like to people think, fight, not only stuck with the mainstream. I don't know, this is why I think that we need to document, archive, write, have exhibition, have a different kind of approach to the materials that waking us up also. We also need to grow and learn a lot, that we come to the moment of revolution.
Yes.
Thank you.
No.
That's it. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for being here, for listening. Yes, we finished today with the conference, with the speakers.